Hey, welcome to In Air's Kitchen. I have a box here from Clover. This is the vegan box, and I haven't opened this one up before. This is the first time I've tried it, but I'm opening it up today because we're going to make the Impossible Kofta chickpea tomato stew and Middle Eastern rice pilaf. I've got a little interview with some folks at Impossible that I'm going to tag onto this, but I wanted to show you a Clover Impossible recipe. The kofta is really fun. I'll talk for just a second about it before we get going. When we first started selling Impossible at Clover, we really didn't think it was going to work very well, but we thought we'd try it anyway because we were curious about it, and it was a runaway success. We did the Impossible meatball sandwich, which is available in some of our boxes. And that Impossible meatball is like a traditional Italian meatball recipe, so it's not actually vegan. It has a little bit of dairy in it, and in the form of cheese. And so we made a kofta recipe, and kofta, it's gonna be somewhere in here. So kofta is like a Middle Eastern meatball. Let's here. So I've got some different things for different meals. This is the Middle Eastern rice pilaf. This is part of the kofta meal, so we'll open that one up in a minute. And then we've got, oh, this is one of my favorites, the Pistachio Halva. So good. If you haven't had this, you should try it. It's really yummy. We got 4 of them. That's awesome. That was Clementine gasping behind the camera. So this is the kofta. And so it's similar to the meatball, except it's not Italian flavors. It's more like Middle Eastern flavors. And we have a, we've got the vegan apple mousse in here. This is really fun. I haven't tried this one yet. I tried some precursors to this when Chris was working on it. So that's gonna be really fun to try. And I'm looking for a chickpea stew. Here it is. So we've got a chickpea stew. So to make the this kofta dish, you're gonna need the Middle Eastern rice, you're gonna need the kofta, and you're gonna need the stew. So we're gonna set these other things beside us. And so I'm just gonna follow the recipe here, but I thought it might be helpful to people who are getting a box at home with the Impossible Kofta. That also may just be interesting for people who are curious about Impossible and different forms it can work in. When Impossible started selling their meat, they were really focused on it being a burger. I think all the branding was Impossible Burger. And I believe we were the first restaurant to really feature a version that was not a burger. And we did the meatball. But you can use it for a variety of things. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna heat up, the instructions here say, set a saucepan over medium heat, add the kofta along with the chickpea tomato stew and simmer until it's warm. So here I have the chickpea tomato stew, and go ahead and add that in there. And I hate losing any of that yummy tomato stew, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of water. This is a little trick. My dad used to do this with cans, like Campbell's tomato soup or something like that, or he would always get the last little bits out. So you can go ahead and just put a little bit of water in there and shake that around. And that means we're not wasting as much. The containers that we have been using are really sturdy. And so we're hoping that you guys can reuse them at home at least a couple of times. That can really reduce the impact on waste, and then recycle them when you're done using them. So this is the kofta now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. Just pop that right in, and we're gonna heat that up. The other thing we need to do is heat this rice up. So it says pour the rice pilaf into a saucepan, add a splash of water, and warm it over medium heat, stirring it occasionally to avoid the rice sticking. So I'm going to get a second pot here and put the heat on that as well. I'm going to add a little bit of water like it suggested, so it's like a couple tablespoons of water, and then I'm going to put the rice in with that. Basically that water is just going to, it's going to steam the rice a little bit and just revive it. So this is already cooked rice. It's super flavorful. It's really yummy. Chris has done a really beautiful pilaf here, and it's awesome base for the tomato stew. So those are all going, and I'm just going to get myself some wooden spoons to stir them. So now at Clover, we've been playing around with Impossible for a breakfast sausage, and there's a change happening right now where the breakfast sausage we had made, we used the beef product, the Impossible beef product, which is no beef, it's just plants, but we used that to make the breakfast sausage, and I think we did a really awesome job. It was a really unique product. But just recently, Impossible's come out with a product that simulates pork, and we just made the changeover. So our breakfast sandwiches, I think last week, switched over to that new pork product. We also are selling the Impossible Chubs, if anybody's really curious to play with this at home. And that's what the industry calls this a large 5-pound brick of the Impossible meat. So you can buy that from Clover. It's on our, we sell it at the Hub, which is the one at 1075 Cambridge Street. I don't think we're selling it at the other restaurants, but if anybody's really curious to try that out, I think you can add it onto a box delivery, or you can go into the Hub and pick it up there, and it's available on the app. So these are heating up really nicely. This really shouldn't take very long. The rice is reviving itself really nicely. The stew is starting to come up to temperature. Probably it's going to take about 3 or 4 minutes, and this meal is going to be ready for us to eat. This one's naturally vegan, so we developed this meal for the Middle Eastern box, I think, if I'm recalling correctly, and it's just this on the plate, but you can pretty see. And it just happens to be vegan, so it's a fun one for the vegan box. And we're almost done there. I'll just plate it up, and that'll be that meal. We may take a little bit of this cauliflower salad just because I love it so much. I think that the menu card here suggests that you have this one with a chickpea fritter sandwich, but the intent here is that this is a bit of a guide, and you can always play around and have these things any way you like. And so I'm just getting to a place where the couple tablespoons of water I put in there have now evaporated out, and you can see it's steaming a little bit. I have some nice fluffy pilaf there, which is just what I wanted. You could nuke this, you could put it in the microwave. The texture is not going to be quite as good, but it will be really quick. So that's always an option too. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this pilaf down. And this box is made for 4 people, so there's enough of everything here for a family of 4. We try to be really generous, so if you've got 5 people in your family like I do, you shouldn't have any trouble stretching it to that. And so here we go. This is the Impossible Kofta and chickpea stew with a Middle Eastern rice pilaf. And let me go ahead and have a bite of this. It's really yummy. There's a lot of flavor. The stew is really awesome. The kofta is really yummy. The pilaf here is really, really good. It has some turmeric. That's some of the yellow color you see in there. It has some pumpkin seeds. It has some dried cherries. So that's the Clover Impossible Kofta, if anybody's curious to make that home. Or you could certainly play around with the larger chub I was talking about if you really want to go crazy with Impossible. Thanks so much.